everyone. My name is Jennifer Tu. My pronouns are she, her.
And I'm Z Spencer. My pronouns are he or him.
We are co-founders of Cohere. There's our third co-founder over there. And Cohere is a tiny consultancy that specializes in education and training for product and engineering teams. Z and I both started as programmers who ended up in engineering leadership roles.
I'm more of a typist than a programmer. I can do 200 words per minute sustained. Jennifer is the one with the fancy MIT CS degree, so if you have real programming problems, talk to her. Yeah, there we go. And together we're going to talk you through 6 areas of engineering leadership. The first is the phases of group development.
Sorry.
What's that?
I jump. It's okay.
That's
Keep
okay.
going. Yeah.
You can jump all you want.
Go ahead.
How to hire is second. How to develop your people is third. How to bring them together into a coherent team. And then how to navigate conflict. And then how to grow a leader culture, which is a lot. But before we start, we're going to get ready to garden. Imagine your organization is a garden. There is soil and benches and plants. People are working in it and coming to see it. And there's some things we can't change. We can't change the amount of sunlight, the location, the rain, what kind of garden people want to see, or if someone secretly sprays Roundup on the roses every Thursday during your weekly deploy.
And then there are some things that we can change. One thing that we can change is to accept where we are. That means we accept all of these conditions that Z just described. And we accept that there are some of them that we can't change, and then some of them that we can't change as quickly as we would like. In addition to accepting the conditions and constraints, we also need to accept our responsibility. We are responsible both for the state of the garden and for the state of the team of gardeners we direct. That means we are responsible for their job satisfaction, their job effectiveness, how much of that Maslow's pyramid that they are getting. Once we've accepted our garden conditions and constraints and responsibilities, we are free to get ready to garden. Where should we focus first, Z?
First, we focus on trust, and trust in particular between people. Trust is the fertilizer, not poop, fertilizer.
It looks like poop to me, Z.
It is fertilizer. I'm from Michigan. We understand agriculture. When we build trust between people paying for the work, the people organizing the work, the people doing the work, and the people benefiting from the work, responsibility for the garden becomes easier. Now, most of us were programmers before we became managers, and it can be really tempting to just try and build trust by jumping in and doing the dirty work of shipping. But this doesn't help our team get better at tending the garden. Instead, we build our team's ability to work without us. We do this by shifting our focus away from how work is done, and maybe even what work is done, to why, and more importantly, by who.
That means we can ask ourselves questions like, what drives the people doing the work? What motivates them? Going back to the morning keynote, what gives them meaning and happiness?
Great managers know that performance isn't individual, it's systemic. Exceptional work is done not by exceptional people, but by organizations whose environment is designed to empower people. Just as an excellent software system keeps working even when no one is at the keyboard, management excellence is achieved when a team thrives without us.
Let's jump into our very first topic then, the stages of engineering of team development.
So, Tuckman's stages of group development asserts that groups go through 5 overlapping phases: forming, storming, norming, performing, and eventually adjourning. Forming is where the group meets. We learn about the opportunities and the challenges, and we agree on some of the goals and how to tackle that work.
An example of this might be having a sprint kickoff.
Now, storming is when the group starts to notice the wear and tear caused by working together. This is a scary place to be. It can be tempting to just get through the storming by protecting your team or stakeholder from the consequences of their decisions and behaviors.
But storming is natural. It's not something to avoid. Storming is an opportunity to learn more about the team that you have. Now, if you stay in this stage for too long, that will slow you down. But if you try to skip it entirely, that's going to prevent you from building the effective team you're looking for. So here's an example of storming. After the kickoff, 2 developers start working, and at the next stand-up, they realized that they were working on the exact same ticket. And they were working independently and reproducing each other's work. So they feel kind of frustrated about that.
That is the point at which they have begun to enter the storm. Now, norming happens as the group works together to survive the storm. They've begun to establish habits and structures for working together, but they're not really final just yet. They're still working on the details of what those habits and norms will be. This is the essence of the norming stage. Our two collaborators decide that when they start a ticket, they will claim it and tell each other what they are working on. As these habits and structures stabilize, teams enter the performing stage. Less time is spent on habit forming and more time is spent on the work.
The difference between norming and performing is that when you are norming, you are making major, big changes. When you are performing, the team is making small adjustments. So for our team that has started talking with each other about starting new work at the daily stand-up, when they are performing, they make a small adjustment that if they begin in the middle of the day, they send a group IM.
And that learning of new habits, it never really goes away. What you can do is you reintroduce renorming. And this is caused when we notice our rough edges. We're creating opportunities for change. We're making it safe to make big changes without re-entering the storm. For example, our team may decide that now that they're going so fast and so well with all this low-effort communication that they want to speed things up. They want to automatically push their patches directly to production.
That's a big change. I can see why you'd call that norming.
Would you consider that an enormous change? So that's an example of adjourning. Jennifer has gotten sick of my puns. That was one pun too far. But you know, that's okay. That happens. In our example team's form of adjourning, wow, say that, form of adjourning, we wound up actually increasing our revenue enough, and we're splitting and forming two brand new teams. Yay! So we bid our example team adieu and move on to topic number 2, adding new team members.
In other words, hiring. We want to hire more people. Let's go this way. Thank you. We want to hire more people because we have more work than we have people who can do it. And we have the funds to pay someone to do more of that work.
When you first begin hiring, one tempting approach is to hire the best and the brightest. But does that actually accomplish your real goals?
Our job is not to hire the best and the brightest. Our job is to enable the team to get the required work done. And that means there's a secret first step required to building a great team. Find what the team needs. Is your team doing a lot of greenfield work? Don't hire someone who's really super experienced and hasn't done greenfield work since they left school. Or if you do, don't expect them to perform at the same level as someone who's been doing nothing but greenfield work.
And if we have a team with a wide range of skills, we probably need to hire people who can both mentor and be mentored so we can develop our cross-functional abilities.
So instead of looking for the best and the brightest, here are 3 things that you might want to look for instead. First, look for what the business need your company is trying to solve, whatever that is. That's the first thing you need to be telling everyone. We need you to join our team because,
Well, we need to decrease our per user per month hosting and infrastructure costs.
That's boring. That's really boring.
But it'll free up $10,000 a month in hosting costs and increase our financial runway by 10%.
And then we have another person free to do more work. Yeah, that makes sense. Whatever this business need is, write it down and then share it widely. Come back to it at every decision point in your hiring process. That means if you've got this candidate and you're kind of on the fence about them, read your business need aloud again and ask yourself, how is this candidate going to help me achieve that business need? And use this question and the answers that come out of it whenever you're struggling with that decision. The second thing you want to think about is what skills or abilities are needed to meet your business need. And this goes way beyond your tech stack. So think beyond knows Rails, think beyond knows Rails really well, and think about what this person needs to succeed. Do you need someone who can build to spec, or do you need someone who will take creative liberties? Or maybe you need someone who knows in that moment which of those 2 is most important to you.
Is your workplace stable or is it changing? Someone who thrives in a stable environment may really struggle in an ever-changing one.
That means take some time looking at who is successful in your organization at bringing value. And think about what non-technical abilities they're using that allows them to use their technical abilities. If you hire someone who can write good code, but can't pick the most valuable work to prioritize, whatever business need you hired this person for is not going to get fully met. Kind of related to this is the third one. Think about what constraints you have in your existing team. Maybe you have a team that exclusively pairs, so a candidate who doesn't enjoy pairing isn't going to be a good fit there.
Maybe your team values kind feedback, and the candidate really likes to give unfiltered, direct feedback. That would be incompatible.
Think about how your engineers interact with each other or with cross-functional coworkers. What will add to this and complement it and not conflict with it? And this is going to be individual to each of your teams. That means be honest with yourself about where your team is. If you wish you had a team that would pair together all the time, but no one on the team is really into it, if you hire with that wishful thinking of, oh, I have this fantasy team in my head that always pairs, your new hire is going to feel bait and switched, and everyone's going to end up feeling really frustrated. That means be honest with what you have and play with the team that you have. You can change that team slowly over time, but you can't pretend it's something it's not. Once you've taken these 3 steps and know what you need out of your future hire, now you are ready to start talking to candidates. When you talk with your candidates, tell the candidate what you're looking for. Tell the candidate who will succeed in this job. That can be kind of scary because you might be thinking, I don't want to tell the candidate what I'm looking for, then they'll tell me what I'm looking for. For example, Z, do you give good feedback?
I give great feedback. I care about being kind and making my feedback specific and actionable.
Sounds pretty good. Because I asked a yes or no question that included the answer that I was looking for, Z was able to tell me what I wanted to hear, and it sounded good, but I didn't learn anything about his feedback skills. You don't have to ask your interview questions this way, though. You can tell people what you're looking for, and then ask for specific stories from their experience, and dig in for details. Qualified candidates will be able to come up with these stories. So examples of questions are, tell me about the last time you gave someone feedback. What happened? Tell me about a contentious patch or a pull request that you were a part of. How the candidate answers these questions tells us if the candidate gives good feedback. When we don't tell candidates what we're looking for, we miss out on compatible candidates who don't guess correctly what to share with us. And we also miss out on opportunity to show our soon-to-be newest hire what it is that our team values, so that way they can celebrate what we are made of. That's all the time we have in this talk about hiring and interviewing. Come talk to us after, because there is so much more that can be said here. Next section is growing your people.
Now, this may come as a complete surprise to all y'all, but programmers were not experts at people. But that's okay. We can learn from psychologists, neurologists, social scientists, as DHH pointed out, philosophers. And we can learn all about how the invisible and visible norms shape our behavior. In Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman describes thinking as 2 systems. System 1, or fast, and System 2, or slow. Fast thinking is our gut reaction system. It's responsible for the vast majority of our behaviors. Slow thinking occurs as we analyze and make a decision. One way to develop people is to help them identify and adjust when their fast thinking is overriding their slow thinking, or when slow thinking is blocking their hard-earned fast thinking wisdom. Let's talk through 4 options on how to do this. First, we can ignore it. Ignoring it is a great option for small stuff. Maybe a team member spends more time noodling on a feature before they get into the code base. Or maybe they jump into code immediately and just start typity before even getting to a whiteboard. It can be hard to tell when someone is using their time effectively, especially when someone's habits and preferences are different than yours. And if it's only costing an afternoon or two here or there, why fix it? Micro-optimizations will cost you trust and make the team less effective. Trust people to self-optimize. Option 2, illuminating growth areas. If it's not small stuff and we can't ignore it, we can illuminate it instead. Once people know how their behavior impacts those around them, they may self-correct. Maybe one of the team members is taking up a lot of space during retrospectives. We can privately share this with them and ask them to change their behavior. I noticed that you were the first person to respond to each conversation point during our last retro. When you do that, it makes it harder for your teammates to advocate for themselves. How could we make it easier for the rest of the teams to engage in retrospectives? By shedding light on a behavior and encouraging the team member to participate in solutioning, we cultivate healthy change in a safe way. Option 3, redirecting contextually unhealthy behaviors. Sometimes we might have to set a firmer boundary. Perhaps something is not merely off-putting or frustrating, but is costing the team significant time and attention.
Here's an example that I encountered with one of my coaching clients. This person had a team member who was frequently blocking merges because the design was not as usable as it should be for the user. And they had really good points they were looking at for the user, but what they were doing of blocking pull requests was, it wasn't healthy. It was discouraging the team, it was slowing everyone down. They weren't able to bring what they needed to the user as quickly as they could. So in a situation like this, we can redirect by pulling that person aside and talking with them and saying something like, I like how you care about the customer experience. How can we shift so that you're not giving us feedback late in the process, but doing guidance earlier on? You can also add a little bit of illumination as well. When we cycle on this feedback, that's preventing us from helping our users. If we can bring your insights in earlier, we can deliver a better product sooner.
Now, our team member gets to develop their skills at a thing they're passionate about in a place that helps your entire team perform better. Even more importantly, that's a word, they learn the value of applying their skills in the right context. Now, some behaviors are unhealthy regardless. In those cases, it's our responsibility to squash it. This is especially important when there's a differential in power dynamics. Someone making snarky remarks about politically correct culture run amok may not seem that bad, but it's a signal to those who live with the effects of discrimination that your team or organization is comfortable with just a little bit of discrimination culture leaking in, so long as it's couched in a joke. We have immediate work to do. If this was in public, we need to respond in public and set clear expectations for everyone. Hey, we don't make jokes about political correctness here. Now, everyone knows that that behavior is unhealthy and not acceptable within our work context. As we shift our team's behavioral norms, our jobs become more sustainable. When we grow our team's capabilities, instead of hopping in to fix every bug or shielding the team from customer critique, the team takes more ownership of the work, which results in higher engagement and higher quality work. And this frees your time up for really high-value activities like taking naps.
Naps are great. As you develop your people individually, one very common problem you might encounter is how these individuals work together. Even when everyone is really well-intentioned and doing their best, each individual's natural communication patterns can only extend so far. And so that means even when everyone is having the best of intent, this communications gap can occur. You might see this happen when you're coordinating between teams. Maybe one team makes an API change, and that API change is in conflict with another team's goals for that same API.
Or maybe one team is changing the visual style sheet, but it's conflicting with another team's use of the style sheet.
You might also see this happen in work that is not happening, because it's beyond the scope of a single engineer. No one is taking ownership for setting up a style guide, even though the same style arguments break out repeatedly in all of your pull requests.
Or no one is documenting or automating the deploy process, even though there are questions and challenges every single time.
This is the work that Tanya Riley calls glue work in her talk, Being Glue. It's the work that greases the wheels, the work that bridges the gap between individuals and teams. When this invisible work doesn't happen, the individuals on your team who you've been carefully growing, they're going to do their best, but they won't be able to make big changes as a team because they won't be working together and going in the same direction. The problem is that glue work is not work that most people will naturally do. It's not rewarded. You might recognize individuals who perform this work and thank them publicly for doing it, but glue work is often non-promotable work. That means if you spend time doing glue work, that takes away from time that you could be spent shipping flashy projects that would lead to your next promotion. One solution to this is for the manager to do all the glue work themselves. But then you end up spending all your time telling your team how to talk with each other.
And then they're totally helpless without your intervention. Plus, you're not getting to do any of the work that you're supposed to do beyond juggling all the glue work.
Another solution is to find a single individual who will do all the glue work for you.
But then she's not able to do the work she signed up to do and won't be able to move her career forward.
And engineers, developers are smart. If they see someone put a lot of work that's super valuable into making the team work together, they're also going to notice if that person gets recognized publicly but maybe never gets a promotion, and they'll know what work to avoid.
And the engineer who's doing all that glue work and she's not getting promoted, she's also smart. She will take her talent elsewhere, and then where will your team be?
Dependent on the person who you just drove away by not promoting. Here's what you should do instead. Instead of relying on a single individual, whether that's yourself or one of your team members, teach all the members of your team how to do glue work. Show them how to pursue communicating beyond the people they work with daily, how to think about the other people in the company who might be affected by their actions. Show them the work that no one is doing but what could benefit everyone if it got done. And then once you've started showing them the stuff, incentivize them to want to get good at it. The way you incentivize people is when you promote someone, point out all of the glue work that they've been performing as part of why they got promoted. Set that expectation that everyone needs to be skilled at glue work in order to get promoted. If you don't do this, you're going to end up with a senior engineer who can only ship tickets, not a senior engineer who can pull other engineers around them and ship projects.
This is my favorite part, by the way. I read it like 12 times, so you're going to love it.
I like your images.
Yeah, I can draw things. I learned that this year. Imagine we have team members with different test philosophies. Alice prefers microtests with stubs at system boundaries to ensure she's not distracted by meaningless failure cases. Bob prefers integration tests to make sure API changes don't break the user experience. To not rock the boat, Alice may agree with Bob on his preferred testing strategy. Tests are being written, work is being done, no problem, right? But through one-on-ones and retrospectives, we see rough edges. Alice is checking out. She's adding fewer tests because they slow down the build. Bob starts to worry that the system is riskier to change. And it can be tempting to ignore it. We literally just told you that ignoring it is a totally valid option, but rough edges like this, when uncared for, become sharp edges that leave scars. We have to avoid avoidance. When we ignore these rough and sharp edges in our team's environment, they don't disappear, but your team will. At first, maybe just their engagement and productivity, but eventually the people will leave too. No one can bring their best selves to a workplace that is mired in conflict and microaggressions. As Alice and Bob's manager, it's up to us to bring the work environment back to a healthy state. Part of why conflict occurs is because we focus on conclusions. Alice wants to add fakes and mocks, and Bob wants to keep our test suite fully integrated. We can reframe from conflict to something that's safer to engage with as a group: tensions. To defuse tensions, we start with the context. Tensions differ from conflict because it's not about the existing conclusion. So let's walk Alice and Bob through 3 steps to reframe conflict to tensions. Step 1, expose sources of tensions. Ask your team to share what they think are underlying this tension. Much like an iceberg, the thing we see in conflict is just a tiny part of the whole. Alice has burned a lot of time chasing down false toast failures because the front end changed in a non-user discernible way. Bob has struggled with code that was difficult to change because the fakes being used were so tightly coupled to the implementation, he couldn't make changes without unwinding a mountain of spaghetti. Once we know some of the sources of the tension, we begin step 2, sharing needs. Alice needs to not have to worry that as she makes changes, she may have to chase down unrelated problems. She likes to feel competent, and things breaking without being truly broken makes her feel unqualified. Bob needs to feel like he's making small, safe changes when he is encumbered by a tightly coupled unit test. When he feels like he can't make the smallest, clearest change that can possibly work. Alice and Bob find common ground. They both really like to get things done, which brings us to step 3, exploring the resources that are available. Resources can be internal or external. Internal resources are resources the team already has. External resources come from the surrounding environment. Turns out, Bob knows how to set up Rails for test-only data attributes instead of conflating hooks for styling or JavaScript with hooks for testing. He's willing to pair on some of that with Alice, and they agreed to do an internal workshop on that together. Plus, Alice has a ton of experience refactoring spaghetti code to reduce the problems associated with tightly coupled mocks, and she's down to pair with Bob on an internal workshop on that. To support them in their workshop development, they've decided to buy a book on education, go to a few local meetups together, and talk through what techniques they liked and didn't like from the meetup instructions. And if the team is time poor and money rich, they could even hire a coach, like Jennifer, to help them put the workshops together. You can actually hire Jennifer, by the way. It's totally okay. With a shared understanding of one another's motivations, underlying needs, and our available resources, we've reframed from conflict to tensions. Now the tension is a problem that can be solved together as opposed to a conflict between incompatible, predetermined decisions. So remember, avoid avoidance and reframe from conflict to tensions.
Let's scoot back this way.
Oh, sorry.
We're doing a DHH thing and reading the story.
Yes.
Here's the story. It's the middle of the night. Production goes down. A lone engineer jumps in and saves you all. This can be pretty cool and inspiring, but if heroics like this become a regular occurrence, you have a hero culture. Hero culture allows problems to go from small and ignorable to takes down production levels. Hero culture is too busy saving the day to do the preventative work to stop crises from developing. Hero culture creates brittle teams because your people are too busy dealing with disasters or recovering from late nights dealing with disasters to work towards whatever it is that would build your business. Hero culture is what stops your team from being able to scale successfully. If you want to learn a little bit more about hero culture and its fallacies, look up Jennifer Davis's talks from 2014 on this topic. She does some really great deep dives into exactly how hero culture stops teams from being successful. For us, though, let's take a different look. If hero culture is the wrong solution, what's another approach we can do instead? We can grow leader culture. That means that when production goes down, someone performs heroics, we hold a retrospective. We thank the person who bought us time, and then we task our team to figure out how do we prevent ever needing to do this again in the future. Once they figure that out, make space for them to be able to carry through that work. When we do this, that means we acknowledge the work of someone who just saved our production system without setting that action as something exemplary that others should model. By pushing our team to avoid hero culture, we are creating an expectation that our team is going to address problems before they get out of hand. We're creating an expectation for leadership. If you want to learn more about retrospectives after incidents, I highly recommend Courtney Eckhart's talk from last year's RubyConf. It's called Retrospectives for Humans. Hero culture doesn't just happen in code. It can happen when you, as a manager, perform heroics for your team. As a manager, people are consciously or unconsciously modeling their behavior off of you. If you model being a hero, your people will do the same thing.
If you come into the office when you're sick, your people will be more likely to do that as well. If you're on email or Slack over the weekend, your people will also be on email or Slack over the weekend. These are not the habits of a passionate team. These are the habits of a team that is working beyond its capacity and a team that is not working effectively together.
As a manager, being a hero isn't limited to your actions around your team. They can also occur in how you manage your team. Are you jumping into conflicts and resolving them yourself? Or are you giving those involved the perspective and direction they need to resolve that? Are you directing every minutia around collaboration and communication? Or are you setting expectations and getting out of the way so they can do the glue work themselves? Just like saving the day single-handedly as an engineer can't scale, jumping in and saving the day as a manager can't scale. Instead, decenter yourself and support your people as they grow into leaders, not heroes. Step up when a problem requires the power you wield as a manager, but otherwise, set your team up to be able to own problems themselves. That means when your people aren't talking with each other, set expectations that they need to do that. If it's a communication gap outside of the team, between the people on your team and others, that's when you should jump in and help get those lines of communication unlocked. If your people are disagreeing amongst themselves, set some expectations or suggest a direction for how they can resolve that themselves. But if the disagreement is coming from outside the team or from above the team, that's a space you should be helping with. And then finally, keep an eye for conflict across the privilege gap and if anyone is punching down. If you have a more experienced engineer and they're pushing around a newer developer, set the expectation with the experienced engineer that that's not appropriate.
Or if an underrepresented person on your team isn't being heard, set the expectation with the other team members to give that person space.
This is how you can grow the people on your team into leaders in your organization and create a robust team that can operate without your constant supervision. Then you can go take that nap.
Yes.
Yeah, naps.
Naps. Oh.
All right, almost done.
Oh, yeah.
Recap. What did we talk about?
Forming, storming, norming, and performing are all natural stages of team development.
Hiring, don't hire the best and the brightest. Hire people who will fill the business need that your organization has tasked you with.
Grow your people. Invest in the people instead of doing the work yourselves.
Glue work, create an environment where your people are rewarded for doing glue work and an expectation that everyone does it.
Conflict. Reframe from conflict to tensions and to develop a habit of processing through those tensions together.
Leader culture. Set expectations and direction for your people to self-actualize and save fixing things yourself for the stuff that's bigger than the team. That's it. Thank you all for coming to our talk on gardening your team. That's what we're calling it, gardening your team.
There's a hashtag gardening teams, which may or may not actually include stuff.
Okay, our talk title, Gardening Teams. Cohere offers coaching for your leaders and your proto-leaders and training courses for everyone. We will stick around for off-mic Q&A, or you can find us on Twitter. I am at JTU. Our company is, oh, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, it's cool.
No, you do you.
We have an empty spot right there, so I got confused. And I'm Z Spencer, at ZSpencer, and we will post our slides later.
If you're watching this on YouTube and not live, it is totally up now.
It is.
But if you're here right now on the live stream or in this room, it will be later.
Yeah, and this is how we communicate doing live introductory workshops, because we're not preaching at rows of seats. This is absolutely terrifying for me. I haven't done this in like 6 years.
What's our website called?
Oh yeah, our website, wecohere.com. And also, I failed when I bought that domain name because I assumed everyone would just like realize that when the website says Cohere on the logo, people would like, oh, that's Cohere. But no, people call it WeCohere. Please don't do that. It makes my heart crack just a little bit inside every time someone does it.
So yes, we are Cohere. Thank you very much for coming.
All right.